Alright, so this video I'm going to be teaching system of equations and matrices, or like matrix, there we go, matrix. So matrix are going to be these, right? So basically whenever you have these equations, see you got x, y, and 60, or sometimes even you got x, y, z, and equals 3 or something like that, then you can use a graphing calculator. So you can either have the T84, the T84 Plus, or any other just graphing calculator, right? And you'll be able to solve these without going through all the crazy math there is to do these. Because to do these equations, you have to go through a lot of work to do them. For example, for one only equation, you have to do almost a whole page of math. And that's a lot of work. When instead, you can be using just your plugging some stuff in to your graphing calculator and then getting one of these, a matrix, and just being able to read it and find out your answer. See here, we have equations that we've already solved. See, here's the answer, we already solved them, going through the whole one-page math. Then we test it out with the matrix, and we see if we get the same answer. So solved by like hand, this would have been 1, -4, 3. We solve it with the graphing calculator, and if you're able to read it here, you can see there's a 1 in the first place, 1 in the second place, and then a 1 in the third. That's telling you it's x, y, z in order. X would be 1, y would be -4, and then z would be 3. X, y, z, 1, -4, 3. Correlates, meaning the same answer. For example, here, we see it's, let's skip to this one actually, because it's only 2. See, it's x and y. We already solved it. We know the answer is 40, and then -2. And so the answer, the matrix, see there's a 1 for the y, and then a 1 for x. 1 is 40, x is -2. There you go, x, y, 40, -2. That's how you get the answer, basically. I'm going to teach you how to not only write this from this, but how to get this from your graphing calculator. So let's do that now. Okay, so we're going to do this one. This is my homework, and I'm just using an example. Here's one of them. So what you want to do first is line up the equation. Basically what I want from lining up the equation is to make sure that x is in the same place, y is in the same place, and then your constant is in the same place. Here's an example where they're not in the same. We have 3 and then 8. We have x and then y, then we have y and x. You rewrite it so it's the x with the x, the y with the y, and then the constant with the constant. If you don't do that, you're going to get a really funky answer, and it won't be the answer if you solved it by hand with substitution, elimination, or graphing. So you want to make sure you have your letters lined up, and so that the constant is to the right of the actual variables. Okay? So right here we have them lined up perfectly, so we just want to put it into a matrix like this. So let's just write down matrix. Right here you have your, when you write it down, basically you're writing your constants. So for example, up here when we wrote it out, the -x, in front of a variable there's always going to be a 1. So this is -1, -1, -1 for the y as well, because it's subtracting 1, -1. And then we have equals 3, so it's a 3. Right, so that's basically how it's going to be. So right here we have 7x, the constant is 7. We have -20, so the constant is -20, and then -9. I know you think of it as subtracting, but if it's next to the number, then it's included to that number, so it's a -20. So down here exactly again, there's always a 1 in front of any variable, so we know that's going to be a -1. Now this is going to be a -10, and that's going to be 27. You close that matrix like that, and that's basically what you're going to be able to plug into your graphing calculator. How you plug it into your graphing calculator, first step, obviously turning it on. Okay, let's clear the screen, make sure there's nothing else going to be there. first thing you want to do is hit second. Second is going to give you all these blue options. So since we're working with matrix, we want matrix. Matrix is going to be the x to the power of -1. So hit second and then x to the power of -1, which gives you matrix. It's going to open this. You have names, math, and then edit. So you already have a few things set up for different types of matrix. If we look at this equation, we want to read the row and the column. So the row is always going to be horizontal and the column is always going to be vertical. So we know that it goes, we want to know how many are first in the column, and then we want to know how many is in the row. Okay, or you can do how many is in the row and then how many is the column. Okay, you always just want to go by this and then this. So we know there's 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 2, 3. So you're gonna be doing 2 by 3. If you have any other different types where it's like 4 and then just 2, then it'd be 4 by 2. You know, it's different. If you have 3 by 4, where it's 3 equations and then 3 variables, so you have x, y, z, and then your answer is going to be 3 by 4. It just really depends on what you have, and you get a different one right there, right? So for this one, though, we're going to be using 2 by 3, because it's 2, 1, 2 by 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? And so when you put it into your graphing calculator, now that we're here, we want to scroll over to edit. Okay, since we're using 2 by 3, go down to 2 by 3, which is my second option here. You're going to click enter. Right, so now here we have what I have from like a different equation I tried to do. You can just, to clear these out, just press clear, and then 0, and then enter. And that's going to leave it 0. So you can just do a new one. We're going to do that for all of them just so it can show you what it would be like if you barely just made a new one. If you haven't done this at all, this is what yours is going to look like. It's just going to be all zeros, and that's fine because we're going to plug in all of these. You're going to plug it exactly as it is here, okay? So we have 7, -20, -9, so basically 7, enter, -20, enter, and then -9, enter. See, that's how it is. Now your second row is -1, -10, 27. So -1, enter, -10, enter, and then 27, enter. Now we can move this out of the way if we want to. We see we have it the exact same as our paper. 7, -20, -9, -1, -10, -27. It's the exact same as a paper because I read it off the paper. Now that you have all this filled in, you want to hit second and then quit, okay? From here, you're going to open the matrix menu again. So second and then matrix, or the button is x to the power -1. From here, we want to go to math. Using your little arrow, scroll over to math. You're going to go down because this is, now that it's out of numbers, it's going to be into letters. You're going to go into RREF parenthesis, or RREF parenthesis, or RREF parenthesis. This is what it looks like. This is the one you want to click. Enter. Now when you're at this, to put in a value, don't type anything in. Just hit second matrix again. Now you want to scroll down to whatever it is. So we're doing this one because it's the 2 times 3. We already filled it in and edit. Hit enter. And now that's the value for the RF. We're going to hit enter again to get that solution. See right here? This is what we got. This is basically one of these like solved matrix for the answer. You can tell by the placement of the ones and the zeros, it's meant for a ordered pair, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, you can tell it's an ordered pair because this one is in the first place while this one is in the second place. This is X, this is Y. okay? So that makes negative 7x, and that makes negative 2y. So we can write this down here. So we got 1, 0, negative 7, 0, 1, negative 2. Close that right here. You can plug this in to like a calculator, actually do the math, and it should be exactly this answer, negative 7, negative 2. And that's going to be your answer if you solved it by hand. That's basically how you do matrices, alright? That's how you solve them, and that's how you get them on the graphing calculator. If we want to do something a bit bigger, instead of actually just 2 variables and then 2 equations, we can move on to something more difficult. We can do this one. So see, this has 3 equations and 3 variables, and then plus, the equal. So when we do this one, let's go into my matrix menu. You can see I have a set one already as 3 by 4. This would be that, 3 by 4. 1, 2, 3 by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now, first step always when you're doing matrix is check if they're lined up. Okay? Usually you want to line it up by alphabetical order. So we have A, and then there's a C. So this is already out of order. So we're going to change it. We just want to check how much of it is out of order. Then we have a B, C, and then your constant. So let's rewrite this equation. We can keep at least 1, or I guess in this case it's going to be 2 since this is the only one out of place. We're going to have negative A plus 5B plus C equals negative 12. Kind of goes into my line, but that's fine. See, for this one, we only have 1 variable, and that's fine, okay? I'll teach you what to do here. So for this, negative 5c equals negative 5. We obviously don't have a b variable or an a variable. That means we're just going to scoot it down so it's next to, in line with c, I mean. So negative 5c equals negative 5, okay? Now, if you want to fill in the blanks so you know what's happening, you can always put in 0 plus 0 so you know that there's other variables in that line, but you don't need that. Okay, after you've done it so long, you don't need it, but if you still need like a placeholder, then that's fine. Now the next one, this is in order, so we just write 5a plus 3b minus 4c equals 5. Okay, so let's write our matrix for this, and it's going to be like this, right? So there's always going to be a 1 in front of this variable, even if it doesn't have it. So it's going to be negative 1, and then 5, oops, and then that's C, always a 1 in front of it, so 1, and then negative 12, negative 12. I like to keep it spaced just so I don't accidentally mix numbers together. See that 0? There's always going to put a 0 here if there's no variable. Since these equations do have 3 variables, you're going to put a 0. Compared to this other equation, let's say, I don't have one on this paper, but I'll give you this for example. Let's say this was just 5y equals 24. Let's say this x wasn't here. Since these equations do have an x, that means you'd have to put a 0 place, okay? But if there wasn't an x, right? Let's say there is, what would it be? So if it doesn't include like x, y, z, you don't have to put a 0 for x, y, z. If it's just like y, then it's just y. But if the equation does include another variable, and this would only be y, you do have to put a 0 place in that, because that variable is included in the equation. Going back to our math, we're going to do the second one. So since this does include an A and a B, we're going to put 0 places for that. So there's a 0 here for A, 0 here for B, and now this C is negative 5. So we're going to write negative 5 equals to negative 5. Great. Negative 5. Now the last one, that one's all in order as well, so we're going to do it from here. That's a 5, That's a 3. That's a -4, and that's a 5. Great. Now we have our matrix. Now again, this is 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 3 by 4, so this is the one we're going to be using, okay? 3 by 4. Now, if you want to know how to make it a different what by what, basically, let me get out of this. You're going to open your matrix menu up, right? You're going to go over to edit, show you this one, for example, that doesn't have a by. You're going to click enter right here once it's in edit. And right here where it's flashing, that's where you put it in. So if we want a new one, for example, we're doing a 3 by 4. Let's say you only had a 2 by 3. Let's do a 3 by 4. So you're gonna press 3 and then enter, 3, enter, and then you're gonna press 4, enter. See, now it gives you the columns. It might not show it. If you have a newer, oops, I just pressed something, sorry. If you have a newer calculator, it might show your whole row, and that's fine. And if it doesn't, then that's also fine. You can also just scroll over, and it'll show you like that. Okay? But if it doesn't, it's fine. As you enter in your variables, it'll move it over for you. So we're going to put in everything as it shows. So it always goes from left to right. Right to left. Sorry, from right to left. Exactly how we read, and then down. Right to left. Right to left, right to left, right. Okay. No, left to right. Like how we read. Okay. So, we're going to put in the first one, -1, 5, 1, -12. Okay, so -1, enter. 5, enter. See how it moves it over on its own? 1, enter. And then -12, enter. And it just, on its own, moves me over to the next one. And so we're going to put 0, 0, -5, -5. Oh, that's great. That's easy. 0, 0, and then -5, -5. It moves me back over to the last one. There's 5, 3, -4, 5. So 5, 3, -4, and 5. Now that everything is filled in, we're going to repeat what we did for the last one. Basically hit second, quit. Now open your matrix menu again. And here you're going to scroll over to math and go all the way down to RF or RREF or RREF. So here you see we have that for an open variable. We're going to hit second matrix. And we're going to make sure you do this one. See, there's two different ones, 3 by 4, 3 by 4, but there's A or 1, 3 by 4, 3 or C, 3 by 4. This is the one with the variables for this equation. So we want to make sure we're clicking this one. That's why I usually avoid putting so many and instead just erase what I had for the last ones. So we're going to hit enter. So we have C, not A, because C is the one with the right variables. Hit enter again, and it'll give you this. See how it's doing the order again? Except now we have A, B, and C are X, Y, X, Y, Z. So we have X, Y, Z. See, X, Y, Z would be up here. And then here's one value, one value, one value for that. Think of coding. So we have 3, -2, -1. So we're going to write down our matrix. It's 1, 0, 0, and then 3, 0, 1, 0, -2, 0, 0, 1, 1. So our answer by reading our matrix would be 3, -2, 1. Now you can always check this by doing the math or plugging it into a calculator, and you'll see your answer comes out to be exactly that. That's basically how you use a matrix. Hope this helped.